Alright, so you already know how we put it down in J class, you know, T.Y. Boogie, famous rapper, you know, but they just treat me like some students here, you know, so, just look at all the beat makers. It's just beautiful, but this is the beautifulest. Alright, that's what I want you to play. This is T.Y. Boogie, welcome to ArtPeace at School Without Walls digital music class.
Only a few of us have had prior music experience, and none of us have ever created a piece of digital music before.
We started out by hearing examples of what FL Studio, the software we would be using, could do.
We then set goals based on what was possible and what we personally wanted to accomplish. For instance, some wanted to create a club hip-hop beat while others wanted to create dubstep, techno, or R&B.
Then we had to learn the software. First we learned how to navigate the interface and then learn to create simple drum patterns.
Then we learned how to add effects to the samples in our beats, such as reverb, delay, and flangers.
Finally, we got to the most important part of the song creation. We learned how to create our own melodies note by note.
Then to finish up our beats, we learned how to use FL Studio's mixer and a program called T-Rex to mix and master our songs, making it sound as professional as possible.
But it didn't stop there. Once we created our first beat, we quickly jumped to another project during which we learned how to cut samples from existing songs and incorporate them into our own beats.
We were never allowed to use pre-made loops like a lot of people use in programs like GarageBand and FL Studio. Every note of every song was student created, and if loop samples were to be used, we had to learn to cut those samples perfectly ourselves in a program called SoundForge and import them into FL Studio.
After a couple of months of training, we were able to make some pretty good sounding beats on our own.
During the second quarter, we began learning more complex parts of FL Studio.
We learned about chords and chord progressions and how and why they were used in songs. We learned that the majority of the songs on the radio use chord progressions that have been used thousands of times by countless artists, even though the songs may sound very different from each other.
Then we picked a song we really liked and looked up the chords to that song. We learned how to input these chords into FL Studio. We didn't even need to know the notes that made up each chord. We used these chords as the foundation for our second beats.
Finally, the last thing we learned was how to create a bass line to match the chords we used by finding the root or lowest note of each chord. This helped to fill out our songs and make them sound more professional.
Right now in digital music class, we are learning how to create melodies based on the chord progressions we used on our last beat.
Most of us have taken time outside of class to continue working on our beats. Some of us have brought work home and come back having discovered things on our own and improved our songs.
Others just don't realize that class is over and sit with headphones on until Joe tells us we're the only ones in the room.
Some of us have even stayed after school to record with Joe, and have gone to studios outside of school to record vocals onto our instrumental tracks that we made during the year.
By simply paying attention and following a few simple rules, we're now able to create original pieces of music without any prior digital production experience. Here are some short examples of our work.